Well, this morning, Lori Horton is teaching us the recipe for Rockstar bars. Lori,
Doesn't that sound cool?
It does.
I know, probably a little cooler than they are, but you gotta go with what you get. This one is so fun because we can really customize this. It can be whatever you like for all of the mix-ins. We're gonna start with making a very simple bar, plain kind of vanilla bar, but then we are going to just throw the kitchen sink in there. Ooh. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I'm putting pretzels in mine, is just crunch up a few. So we'll work out our Monday morning frustrations here a little bit, and we'll just kind of crunch these up and use what you got on hand, rolling pin, you know, whatever.
Nothing too complicated.
Nothing too bad. We don't want to make these into dust. We do want to leave some pieces behind.
Okay.
So we'll just kind of pound them out a little bit. What I'm going to end up with is just some good little pieces of salty bits in there. Good little salty sweet. What I've got in my bowl is a cup of softened butter. So this is just kind of room temperature. It's not melted. It's not anything crazy. I'm going to add to that quite a bit of brown sugar and then about half as much white sugar. And before I add anything else, I'm just going to go ahead and cream this together and make sure it's really nice and fluffy. So you can do this with a hand mixer. You can do it with just your whisk. When the butter is nice and soft, it mixes well. So there's no need to dirty any extra dishes. But we want to make sure, kind of pat off that whisk every once in a while, and then keep a spatula handy to scrape those sides really thoroughly depending on your bowl. You don't want to leave any bits of that butter behind. And you also want to make sure you're really getting any of those lumps of the brown sugar out as well. So just kind of keep those tools back and forth. We're going to use both interchangeably. And again, just really get this thoroughly mixed. Should be really nice and creamy.
Now, is there a risk of, overbeating this?
Not at this point.
Okay.
We will get there to where we want to be careful with that. Anybody who bakes always knows you want to be careful. It's a great question because you can over mix things and add too much gluten to where they come out kind of tough or chewy when they're not supposed to be. We're going to add to that now just 1 egg. And always remember when we're baking, unless it calls for something otherwise, we want to use a large egg. We're going to mix that in. Make sure, again, we scrape those edges. Get it really well incorporated. And then our save all ingredient, a little splash of vanilla at the end. And then for our dry ingredients that go in this, nothing out of the ordinary at all. Flour, a little bit of baking soda and salt. We've already whipped those together a little bit. You never want to dump your baking soda in just whole because you always take that risk of it lumping and you leaving some pieces behind. So always kind of take a fork and mix that in with your flour a little bit before. It will help. So we've got this really nicely mixed with all of our wet ingredients. As I said, we've already got those dry ingredients together. So we're going to take our time mixing those in. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about all of our goodies that are going to go in with this.
All right, sounds wonderful. Stick around. We'll be right back. Well, this morning, Lori Horton has been showing us the recipe for her Rockstar bars. Now, we've been working hard on this dough. Talk to me about what's next, Lori.
Okay, so I am just finishing up on getting all of these dry ingredients incorporated with our nice whipped butter and brown sugar and sugar mixture to start with. Pretty standard fare. It's almost like a sugar cookie dough at this point, or you could kind of pivot and make it a chocolate chip cookie, but it's going to be very dense. So this is the point where we switch over to the best tools that we have. Scrub those hands, put on those gloves, whatever you prefer, but we are going to go to mixing by hand. Because it's going to be very, very dense at this point, and it's just easier to incorporate it with your hands. So I'm just kind of pressing and getting the corners of the last of those dry ingredients together. And then what we're going to add to this, it's going to be so good. I mixed up those pretzels, mashed them up a little bit at the beginning. We've got that saltiness that we're going to add. Obviously, we've got the sweet of the dough, but we're not going to stop there.
No, please don't.
No. So what I have in my finest Tupperware here for you is a mixture of a bunch of different kinds of chips. And I've got toffee chips, I have got dark chocolate chips, I'm going to let your clean
Yes.
hands open that for me.
There we
Thank
go.
you. And part of the reason I put it in here is because we'll get real fancy and we're going to mix that. Okay.
Ooh, that looks so good. All
We're
of
gonna
that
get
together. I'm just gonna stick my hand
I
in there.
know it's like the best trail mix
I
without
know.
all the things you don't want, right? So we've just got a really good mixture. I put in some of the mini chocolate chips
Okay.
for milk chocolate. I put in some dark chocolate. You could add espresso chips to this.
Yes.
Chocolate chunks. It's really whatever you've got on hand, but you're going to add a total of about 3.5 cups of chips and
Okay.
pieces of whatever just works for you. I am really bad about always keeping those last little bits of chips in the freezer because I use about 2/3 of a bag. I've got this left. I'll use it for something. This is like the mass clean out something. So you really have to work hard, like you can see here. Again, I don't want to use my spatula because I'd probably snap the spatula into pieces. So you're just incorporating this. You don't want to overdo it as far as working the dough.
Right.
But you do need to just continually fold these ingredients in so that there's some in each piece.
Okay.
And that's why it works a little better to mix all of your bits up ahead of time.
Yes.
And then pour them in together so you don't get one side that's got no pretzels and one side that's got all the pretzels. So we're going to get the last of that mixed in. What I've got over here to put that in is just a 9x13 pan. That
Okay.
can be a regular metal baking pan, an aluminum pan, whatever you got. And it's very important that you spray it. So
Okay,
make sure you
right.
put some of that baking spray in there. If you've got a nicer pan, you can even line it with parchment. That works well too. But you're still going to spray it a little bit. So when we come back, we're going to press this in there, top it off, and then talk about baking it.
All right, wonderful. Lori, thanks. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Lori has been showing us how to make Rockstar bars, and we're making it to the last final steps here.
We're almost
so
over the finish line,
working
right?
hard with that dough.
Oh, I know. It is. It's a workout. This is one, unfortunately, probably not a great one for the kids to help with because they're just not going to be able to do a whole lot. But I'm going to take that whole hunk of dough, and you can see it's very
Yeah.
solid because I can pick it up in one piece.
Packed with goodies too.
Get a few of those little bits out of the bottom because you don't want to waste any of that. And then we're going to actually press this down fully into the pan. So it's really simple. You have the pan sprayed, so no problems there. Start in the middle, push it out to the edges so that you're not picking up too much of the pan spray. But just make sure you get it to the corners and that it's fairly even. So if you have a really heavy, thick spot that you can see a little mound in the middle, kind of work that out. Don't let it.
Spreads nicely though.
It does. It's
after all
very.
that work.
I know,
Yeah.
right? It's really not bad. It's pretty creamy when you get down to it. When we started with that nice cookie base, so when you get it all patted in there, it looks all nice and doughy. You can see it's really even.
Delicious.
But we started with that salty sweet. So to finish on the salty sweet, we're going to add a little bit of coarse sea salt. So this is a bigger grain than just your regular table salt or your table sea salt. So don't overdo. You don't want to get a really salty bit, but you want just that little tiny
Yes, and
bit
it's
of
great
crunch.
that you can see how much you're putting on.
Exactly. It's so nice with these bigger pieces. You
Yeah.
can tell exactly where you put it. And then at this point, if you want to add a few extra of your pretzel pieces or a few of your chocolate chips, you can. And this is where your expert baker would ordinarily show you what the finished product is supposed to be like. But it is in a mess in the seat of my car due to a little quick stop.
Accident. Yeah.
No accident, just a quick stop.
Still delicious though, I'm sure.
Well, I'm not going to say it's not going to be my lunch later with a nice cup of coffee, but it doesn't look great. But when you pull this out of the oven, when I baked that off last night, it was more like about 20 minutes. So don't be afraid to go a little under or over on those times. What you're going to get is a really nice golden brown on the edges and then just a light browning to the center. So you don't want a real pale center. You want a golden edge and then a light brown middle. And it'll be a little jiggly when it comes out. Not too much. Get rid of that shine. Bake that shine out of it. Give it a little bit of space to jiggle and then let it cool completely in the pan before you turn it out or you cut it. This is a nice one if you're going to take it to maybe an outdoor event, because you can just leave it in the pan and slice
Right.
that. It's going to pop out easily because you sprayed that pan. But you can also turn it out after it's cooled and just serve those bars individually if you
sure.
want to stack them up and do it as like a gift or something a little bit nicer that way. So again, experiment. White chocolate, the butterscotch chips, there's
Ooh.
caramel chips. There are so many kinds
Yes.
of chocolate chips out there right now that you can really have a lot of fun with this. Leave the pretzels out if that's not your vibe. You know, go with something different if you don't like that salty sweet. They are so good with almost anything in them. You start with that same base. Just try to keep the ratio about the same.
Okay.
So total volume of good bits in there. Keep it the same and you're going to be great.
Wonderful. All right, Lori, as always, thanks so much for being with us this morning. We'll, of course, have this recipe later on KOAMNewsNow.com. We'll be right back.